Well, this is pretty typical. Who would you have for your American League spot in the
Didn't
World
I have
Series?
Texas?
Texas, I think.
Texas,
You had. Who
how's
did I
that
have
go?
again?
Boston?
Red Sox?
Red Sox, yeah. How'd that go? They didn't even win a game. They didn't win a game.
Whatever.
I don't even know who I had in the National League.
Kiss of death.
Yeah, see ya. That's why I don't bet. That's why people should bet opposite of what I say.
I think you had the Nationals. You're still
they
alive
got a
there
chance, but
as we take
Kershaw
this.
coming back today, so who knows?
And I had the Cubs going and losing, so
That's
at least
right.
those two series neither of them are done yet. So
No,
our teams
they're
are
not.
actually still alive.
Yeah,
instead
some
of getting
baseball to
swept
watch.
away.
Yes.
So once again, predictions on this show fairly horrible, but we're going to continue to make them because let's be honest, life would be a lot worse without them. So
Yeah, it would be.
maybe we'll make a few this week if you stick around and watch this week's episode of Extra Points. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Extra Points. I'm Eric Schmoldt, sitting alongside John Barry, and we're just ready to...
We're getting into playoff mode.
We are. We got the final week of the high school football regular season upon us,
Big
and
games.
we'll get to that,
Big
but
games.
I think we should probably start with the Badgers. Because,
Yes, we should. Speaking of big games.
Yes, the Wisconsin football team back up into the top 10 in the rankings this week after a week off last week, and... College game day coming to Madison.
Bascom
again.
Hill.
You
going up?
Number 2 Ohio State coming to town.
You going up?
I'm going to go for the game.
Okay.
I don't know that I'm going to be there for game day. That's
okay.
a little.
You could heckle Lee Corso and.
Well, I've done it a few times.
Watch him put a Buckeye on his head when he gets done making his prediction, because that's what he'll do.
He's never going to put Bucky on his head.
No, he never will. No.
But. I don't think I really need to be up there like 8 a.m.
No,
for the 7 o'clock game.
Mm-mm.
But if you get a chance to go, you should go. I've been up there 3 times, I think. Out of this will be the 6th time that they've been in Madison since '99. So
it's crazy.
Big matchup, and actually, when Ohio State has come to town, when they've been in a number 1 or number 2 sort of spot, the Badgers have actually found a way to beat them a couple times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what's going to take. I mean, I think our defense will keep us in the game, and hopefully Mr. Hornibrook can bounce back from a subpar game against the Wolverines. But I think with a week off and a week to get ready for Ohio State, I think that plays in their favor. And certainly when you take into consideration it's under the lights, it's at Camp Randall, it's going to be electric. And I think Ohio State's a better team. There's no question about that. But better team doesn't always win.
The Badgers show up for these night games.
They
it
do.
Seems like.
Yes, they do.
I remember back to the Nebraska when they were first here, and I mean, just a lot of these big night games. When you think back, even to, I always remember the 2003 game with Shabert and Lee Evans against Ohio State. When you look back at 2010, and they played Ohio State at home, and Gilreath opened the game with the kickoff return. They tend to show up when these huge games come, and they're playing them at night under the lights in Madison.
And like you said, I think that week off, that bye week's going to help them. They won't get Beagle back, but they'll get a couple of those guys that were dinged up that'll be a little bit healthier. And I think more than anything, it's, you and I have talked about it, that defense, I think it's going to keep them in every game. And we saw that against Michigan. And on a day when the offense just didn't have it, the defense, kept them where at least they were in striking distance. But, you hate to look too far ahead, but boy, a victory Saturday night over the Buckeyes, and all of a sudden you got to start thinking about, a lot of different scenarios when it comes to the Badgers, because the schedule obviously is going to get a little bit easier after that. There's still Nebraska and Iowa, but Iowa's certainly not as good as people thought, and they get Nebraska at home. So a win Saturday night, and, I looked the other day, bowl predictions had there was Badgers playing in the Cotton Bowl against Boise State, so not bad.
I think if you need any more evidence for the Badgers' defense, and you thought maybe that game against Michigan was a fluke, or maybe Michigan's offense wasn't quite as good as advertised, you just look at what they put up, 78.
78 against Rutgers.
Obviously, Rutgers is not good, but
no.
That offense got back on track against
it did.
A Big Ten team, and I think the spread now is up to like 10 or 10.5 points.
That's fine.
And to me, I kind of like maybe the Badgers in that situation just because of the defense. You think they would keep it a close game. And if they can keep it close into the second half, and then maybe kind of like the Michigan game, there were some opportunities in that second half that they couldn't have taken advantage of, and just didn't. All you want to do is keep yourself in it and maybe just connect on one of those plays this time, and you never know.
And I think the one thing you're going to see is I don't know how much Barrett's been pressured this year, and obviously he's good. He's one of the probably 4 or 5 guys that are Heisman hopefuls right now, but I'm not sure how much pressure he has, and I think Wilcox is going to send the kitchen sink after him and try to get as much pressure as he can and take him out of his comfort zone and maybe get a little pressure and cause a couple of turnovers, because let's face it, if we can get a couple turnovers and stem the tide early and not let them get off on us to a couple touchdown lead, we'll be in good shape, because I think Clement will run well, and I think that offensive line is just going to continue to get better as it gets older and gets a little bit more game experience. But again, Hornibrook's got to bounce back. He's got to have a better game than he had against Michigan, because I hate to say it, but Ohio State's I think a better team than Michigan.
It's just kind of you're going to have good and bad with the freshman quarterback, and we've seen it in his first 2 starts, and it's just kind of a matter of how do you, when he walks out into Camp Randall and those lights are shining down on him for a huge game, is he able to kind of take that and run with it, or does he kind of go into his shell a little bit?
And it's like you and I talked about last week. I mean, we're 4-1 and ranked 8th in the country with the number 2 team in the country coming to town. I would have taken that.
Yeah,
I would have taken that in a heartbeat before the season started. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great game. I guess being the eternal pessimist, I just feel like Ohio State's a better team. And they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way to win.
I would agree. You have to favor them in just about any game they play right now. I mean, they're a national championship contender. The only team I maybe wouldn't pick against them would be Alabama.
Yeah.
I can't think. I like them to beat a Michigan team.
I do too.
That game,
Michigan State's obviously down. Season, I think the Buckeyes are going to be right there at the end. I see no reason they can't run the table in the Big Ten. Certainly win the Big Ten championship game, and then if that's the case and they're unbeaten, you're probably looking at Alabama and Ohio State in the national championship game, which it's probably the way it should be, because I think those are the 2 best teams. But a lot of stuff ahead, and boy, if the Badgers could pull it off, that would be tremendous. And like I say, I wouldn't be shocked.
Either way, the night games in Madison are always
something
different, and the weather looks like it's going to be pretty awesome. So looking forward to Saturday. On the other college football front, should give a shout out to the Warhawks. Speaking of teams that have had tough early schedules, they survived theirs, beat Morningside, beat Platteville, beat Oshkosh in front of a huge crowd on Saturday.
Biggest ever, they said, in NCAA Division III history. So
they have to go up against an unbeaten lacrosse team this weekend, which sounds funny to say that it's gotten easier, but I don't think that they're quite in the same realm as Platteville or Oshkosh at this point. So. You got to think the Warhawks.
But still on the road, you never know. Going on the road in the WIAC is never easy. But Whitewater, I think, like you said,
they've set themselves up here.
They have. They put themselves where they want to be, and you get past this week, and then certainly the schedule gets easier. And they may be on a collision course again with Mount Union, but a lot of games left to play.
And it was just kind of fun to be over there Saturday to see. Paul Foster and actually, Harry Henschler gets in sometimes there on defense. Yep. Mostly, I think, in the pass rush situations, they kind of send him off the edge a little bit.
I don't blame them.
They got Truin at center, so there's some local guys
area
that
kids,
making some big impacts
Marcus Hudson,
on that team. Yep. So it'll be fun to just kind of keep an eye on them now that. We probably sort of think they'll coast more than they'll let us think that they
right. Coach Foles will never let us know that. No,
but they should be set up here for the stretch.
Go Warhawks! I agree.
On the high school scene,
big games this week.
What why don't you break? What are some of the ones we're looking for as teams either try to look to clinch spots in the WIAA playoffs or clinch conference championships, things like that. I guess the one that sticks out to me right away is Badger at Waterford.
Mm-hmm.
Badger undefeated and trying to wrap up an undefeated season against a Waterford team that has 1 loss but has given them relatively 0 points.
Those 2 teams combined have given up 86 points in 8 games. That's crazy. Waterford hasn't been scored on in the second quarter in 8 games.
So what are we looking at, like a 7-6 game or what?
I said 21-14 Waterford. I just think that Waterford, they kind of have Badger's number right now. I didn't realize it's been this long, but Waterford, if they win Friday night, will win the 6th straight conference championship, either outright or
share.
The last team to win it besides them was Delavan in 2009. So a nice run for the Wolverines. Badger certainly, is capable, and they've scored 91 points their last 2 games. So that offense is tough, but Waterford is so good defensively. They got a good running back with Mahalik, who's, I think, 2nd in the conference in rushing. So should be a great game. 2 good teams that I would expect to make some waves in the playoffs. But a big game, and Badger with a win, will finish undefeated and win that title outright and snap Waterford's streak. And if the Wolverines win, it's 6 straight for them, and they could share it with Badger and Wilmot if Wilmot wins as well. So you'll have a 3-way tie. And then you go to the Rock Valley.
Well, let me just say, the thing with Badger, looking at the projections, is that they made a nice run last year through the D2 bracket, but this year probably going to be Division 1.
Oh, are they? Okay, all right.
That's probably going to hurt them. And I just wanted to go back, too, because I think you were the one that said the Badger was going to run the table back in the old debate show. So I just want to make sure we let everybody know that it seems like you've maybe
that was a debate.
Jumped off.
That was a debate.
That was 2 weeks ago. We're not judging on that sort of thing.
No, but
I was the one that said they were
and you're right there. I mean, if they're one of the smallest teams in Division 1, obviously that
hurts their chances a lot.
That changes everything, because then you're talking, the Franklins and Arrowheads and teams like that, where it's much different coming in the Division 1 bracket. But still, another great year for the Badgers, and let's hope they can cap it off with a win Friday night against Waterford. And
they're dealing with some off-field stuff too, which you never know exactly how that kind of affects.
Right. Didn't affect them last week, but hopefully this week. And again, Waterford's a good team, and it's gotten to be a good rivalry between those two schools. So I would expect a low-scoring, close-fought game, and like I say, may the best team win. And you look at the Rock, and Clinton at 7-1 going to winless Whitewater. You would expect the Cougars to roll and finish 8-1, and that leaves Evansville-Albany, the defending Rock Valley North champion, who's hosting Walworth Bigfoot. Both teams have already playoff eligible, but Bigfoot with a chance, with Jackson Ends, a chance to play spoiler and deny the Blue Devils a chance at the conference championship. But again, Evansville-Albany, I said from day one, I thought they're the best team in that conference. I just think they have too much depth and probably too big up front for the Chiefs. But I think Ends and the boys they'll make it interesting. But I would expect the Blue Devils come out of there with a win and tie Clinton for the Rock championship.
I have to, just because I accused you of flip-flopping,
yes.
I have to stick now with my Walworth Bigfoot pick here. Mm-hmm. So basically what it's going to take to knock them off and upset them, I think, is just a big game from Ends. And they have to not turn the ball over. In the games where they've lost or had trouble this year, the Chiefs have really had some costly turnovers. And I think if you can hang on to the ball against Evansville-Albany, you have to, or you're not going to give yourself a chance against one of the best teams.
They've got to find a way. You're not going to shut him down, but you got to find a way to at least contain Brennan Banks, because he's kind of run wild the last few weeks. And big, strong kid who, he's just gotten bigger and stronger as the year's gone on, and he's been a load for teams to try to stop, and that's why he leads the Rock in rushing. And but he's not it for Evansville. Zach Milkey's had a good year for them as well. Katzenmeyer, like you and I talked about, seems to score from anywhere on the field, and a good supporting cast for Coach Grovestein, and like I say, they're primed again to be a top seed in the playoffs. But if they're Division III, they're going to end up with Catholic Memorial at some point, unless they get sent north, and it's too bad, because again, a good team that's just, because of the way things pan out with enrollment and everything else, they just kind of get the short end of the stick with Division III, because the private schools, and I've said it before, are just at an advantage.
Probably the other Rock game to keep an eye on is the Broadhead Judah at East Troy. Yep. The Cardinals trying to keep that streak alive of making the playoffs.
Yep, looking for their 26th straight, which is a state record right now at 25. And I talked to Jim Mattias earlier today, and he said, hey, we've got to go over there with the mentality that because he thinks that even with a 4-5 record, Broadhead Judah could still get in, but obviously that's not. He goes, we don't want to back into the playoffs. We want to earn our way in, and
you don't want to be sitting there Friday night wondering
either. And East Troy, certainly a good team at 5-3. Should be probably a shootout, I would expect, because both teams are capable of scoring, and East Troy with Goodland, who's I think second in the Rock in rushing, big strong kid, and Mattias said we've got to be able to contain him as well, but. Matt Schmidt threw for almost 200 yards against East Troy last year and a couple of touchdowns, and he's back. So I would expect, a high-scoring game, and usually when their backs are against the wall, Broadhead Judah finds a way. And don't be surprised if the Cardinals come out of there with a win and automatically qualify for the 26th straight year, which just seems crazy.
It is crazy. There are teams out there that are looking for their third or fourth time to even go, and this is 26 years in a row. Here with the Janesville teams, sort of in the same boat as Broadhead Judah, just hoping that if they win, somehow they can find their way in at 4-5. Parker coming off kind of a surprising The result, I guess, is surprising, and maybe the effort was the more surprising thing. Or
Yeah,
lack
just
thereof.
it was a stinker. I mean, that's the best way to put it. They just didn't play well the first half. Were flat, had no energy, and got behind and fell behind by even more, 18-0 to start the second half, and then finally got on the board. But just not the effort you would expect from a team that's kind of do or die, so to speak, and knows they had to win with a game this week at West, and they just came out and didn't play well. Memorial just kind of frustrated them all game long, both sides of the ball, and now the Vikes at 3-5, have to beat West, and that gets them to 4-5, which was good enough to get in last year. But then talking to Clayton Krieger after that game, he said all indications are that 4-5 probably won't get him in this year.
It just kind of depends on how everything shakes out here in the final week. Yep. But to win, you're asking a lot. You're going on the road. Terrell Carey, I saw him last week against Craig. Yeah. Basically, anytime he touched the ball, went for a touchdown, it seemed like. So you have to try to contain him, and maybe Parker will have a little better time doing it. You're going to have to put two guys on him basically at all times and just kind of front and back him and hope he doesn't get behind you. But you kind of just wish they were at 4-4, and maybe they would feel like they had a little more to play for.
Right.
And Craig, same sort of deal. Didn't contain Carey. They gave themselves some chances and lost by a touchdown up at West last week, or where they could have been at 4-4. But they've got the daunting task of going up against a Verona team coming off its only loss, and a Wildcats team that knows, hey, if we win a share of the Big Eight. So,
probably a 1 seed. So a tall order for the Cougars, and let's face it. Their Achilles has been their defense, and nobody runs a more complex and diverse offense than Verona, and probably going to give the Cougars trouble. And but Ben McCormick, he'll have those kids ready to play. They'll play hard, and for the seniors, their last chance to play at Monterey probably. So, nothing to lose for Craig, but just against an explosive offense like Verona, that's where they've struggled this year, and certainly I would expect that again to be the case on Friday night. Not saying that Craig can't score and put some points up, but I just think if it turns into a track meet, it's one that Craig can't win.
Anything else on the high school scene? We're kind of waiting here. Conference volleyball this weekend.
Conference volleyball, conference
the
cross
WIAA.
country. Yeah. Good luck to all the cross country runners this week. When you look on the Janesville side, certainly Nate Farrell. Can he duplicate his incredible run last week in Burlington, and Peyton Sippy on the girls' side for Craig, and really both teams. Don't expect them to win a conference title, but certainly both are capable of finishing in the top 3 in by far the best conference in the state cross country wise. And it'd be interesting to see Farrell and Finn Gessner and the kid from Middleton, and they were 1, 2, and 4 at the Midwest meet. So we'll see. And this is that time where teams have kind of gotten into their shape where they want to be as you get into the postseason. I know, especially at Craig, that's what they do, is they kind of taper off those last 2 weeks so that they're good to go come tournament time, and here we are.
Got a couple tennis players going to state.
We do.
Macy Beslanka from Craig.
Yep.
So
good for her.
That's later this week.
That's Thursday at Nielsen. It gets going. Her match is at 10:30 on Thursday morning, and
I think we got a
good chance for her as well. She's playing a girl with kind of a similar record, and a freshman. So maybe that junior over the freshman, the experience pays off for her, and you just never know. But you finish your year at state, things are good.
Yeah, and she got in there by winning a sectional match. So she earned her way there.
She did. Yeah.
We got a couple other special qualifiers from around here. I think the Milton doubles team,
Whitewater doubles team. Badgers got a singles and a doubles team there, and you just never know. I mean. Obviously there's the Homesteads and the teams that have been good for so long, but I see like the number 1 seed in the girls' side is a girl from Stevens Point, 30-0, and Stevens Point not really a hotbed for tennis, but sometimes you just don't know. So always a good 3 days up there. It's fun to watch good tennis, and that's what you're going to see at the Nielsen Tennis Stadium in Madison. It's just on Saturday. Fortunately, the Badger game's at night, so otherwise parking would be absolutely crazy. It'd be crazy up there, so that'll help. But no, other than that, we'll start getting into some more sports next week with soccer and some other things. So
volleyball brackets
will be out, and it'll be interesting.
Shifting over to the NFL, Packers
got
back,
away.
Kept kind of the momentum going a little bit against
Mm-hmm.
the Giants. So I would expect the Giants will be in the mix there in the NFC East. They won by a touchdown on Sunday, and now the Cowboys with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott and the youngsters that
Travis
are playing
Frederick.
so well. Come to Lambeau this week for a Sunday afternoon game.
Yeah, they do. And, Green Bay, they're not hitting on all cylinders yet. They're not probably where McCarthy'd like them to be, but they're 3-1. And, I mean, that's, a win's a win. And you can always improve upon things. I thought the first half they played pretty well. Defense was pretty solid. The second half they got a little bit vanilla, but,
That's pretty typical McCarthy.
Yeah, it is. And they got to win. And that's all you want to do is win and move on. And it'll be interesting this week. Prescott's first big game on the road, so to speak. And, a lot of talk this week that if somehow he finds a way to win at Lambeau and they've got a bye week and Romo's back today was deemed healed,
what do they
who
do?
starts?
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have because for so long there was never anybody worth backing up Romo. And now you've got somebody. But, it's still Jerry Jones' team. He loves Tony Romo. So my guess is win, lose, or draw on Sunday, week 8 or 9, whatever it is, rolls around, Tony Romo will be behind center, but still a nice problem to have. But I think when you look at Sunday's game, Packer run defense has been pretty good. Certainly Ezekiel Elliott's solid. That offensive line for Dallas is probably anchored by Sharon's own Travis Frederick is probably one of the top lines in the league, and they've been playing pretty well. I just think defensively you can exploit things with the Cowboys, and I think that's what Rodgers will do, and I would expect Green Bay to move to 4-1.
And Green Bay's line has been just as respectable through these first few weeks. And to me, it just comes down to I think the Packers' defense has been good enough that they'll be able to dial some things up to really make Prescott work a little more than maybe he's had to this point, or try to get him a little more flustered than he's been. And so that's why I kind of lean toward the Packers this week.
I'm sure they'll shadow him, whether it's Matthews or somebody else. They'll shadow him because he seems to do the most damage when he gets outside the pocket. And they did a pretty good job against Bridgewater last year doing that, where you just don't allow him to get outside and use his legs. And, if you shadow him with somebody and make somebody else beat you, I doubt Des Bryant plays. So they're a little depleted at wide receiver. Cole Beasley he's an okay slot guy, but not a guy that's going to hurt you downfield. So
be an interesting test for the run defense.
It will.
Just because they haven't, Adrian Peterson obviously wasn't himself and then got hurt in that game.
Right.
The Lions' rushing attack is not an attack at all. The Giants were down to like their third or fourth guy. So this is easily the top running back test that they've seen in a while. So,
and it's funny that probably right now the rookie of the year, Carson Wentz certainly in the mix as well, but two guys from the same team. You look at Prescott and Elliott, they're both certainly two of the top 3 or 4 rookies in the league. But again, on the road, Lambeau Field, that's a pretty tall order for those guys, and you hope that they crumble under the pressure a little bit. And like I say, I would expect Green Bay to come out of there with a win, and they'll be 4-1, and I think everything's okay.
Sounds good. If you have an opinion on what the Packers might do this week, or any sort of prognostications as we get set for the WIAA playoffs, you can certainly send them our way, or let us know what you think of the show. sports@gazetteextra.com, or find us and leave a comment on YouTube or Twitter or iTunes, and we'll share it on the show.
We'll share it. We will. Yeah, you betcha.
If you feel like giving us a shout. So thanks to Angela for shooting the show this week, and Kevin McLeod for the music. And we'll be back here next week to break down who we got in the
playoffs,
high school football playoffs. And we'll see where the Badgers stand after the big night game on Saturday. So we'll see you back here next week.
Go Bucky.